Welcome back to Learn SKN, and today we're going to start looking at the mid-June 2019 Economics Paper 2 for CXC. So that's the mid-June 2019 Economics Paper 2, and so we're going to look at questions 1 to 5, and of course we're going to try and divide it among the videos so we get time to explain a little better in each question. So before we jump into it, you know what to do. You have to like the video, please, and then you have to subscribe, yes, and then you have to hit the notification bell so you know when part 2 and 3 drops for this video. So let's just jump right into the mid-June 2019 Economics Paper 2. Question 1. Question 1 is asking us, define each of the following terms. And so the first one is economics, and the second one is the economy. And so economics, right off the bat, there are multiple definitions, but one of the easier ones is simply the study of how societies allocate their scarce resources. That's one definition you can use. And for economy, you can define it as the system used by a country, or the system that is used to allocate those scarce resources. The system that is used to produce and allocate those scarce resources. So those are some off the top definitions, but of course you may want a little textbook definition. So based on the textbook we have economics. Modern economists define economics as the study of how man allocates scarce resources which have alternative uses to achieve given ends or goals. Okay, a little bookish, but I have an idea. And then we have the economy now, where you have the economy is the mechanism through which these scarce resources are organized for production of goods and services. Okay, so you have a textbook definition. I can go with the basic off the head definition. You don't have to go too textbooky, all right? You try to go textbook, you forget one question, one word, and that's it for you. You blank out on your paper. So try to put them in your own words as much as possible. All right, part 2 says, state 2 examples of an economic good. And surprisingly enough, this question normally tells up people, what is an economic good? Very simple. Anything that is there for sale, that's an economic good. So any good that is out there for sale, that has been produced and is for consumption, that's an economic good. So we have, you know, a shirt, a pants, a shoes, a bike, a car, whatever. All those are economic goods. All right, so if you check this website, we see some examples of economic good. A good with some benefit to society and an opportunity cost attached to it. It can include both private and public goods. So we're talking about normal goods that you buy out there on the market. And so it asks just for examples. And so you just state 2 examples: a car, a shirt, a shoe, whatever. Those are economic goods. Goods and services that you can fetch a price, you can buy, that kind of thing. All right, good. So part B now, number 1, part B. The market for electricity has a high cost, many buyers, and only one seller. Identify the type of market structure and compare it to monopolistic competition. 4 marks. So clearly, we see one seller. So from the time we see one seller, we know it's a monopoly. Good. So identify this type of market structure and compare it to monopolistic. So it's a monopoly. So it's a monopoly. And you have to compare it to monopolistic competition. Now remember, for monopoly and monopolistic, they have similarities but differences. For example, monopoly outlines many buyers and only one seller. But monopolistic now has many buyers and many sellers. The goods can be differentiated. So for monopolistic competition, the goods can be differentiated, and that's one of the reasons why you can have monopolistic competition, because you can differentiate the goods. There are many buyers, many sellers, but the goods can be differentiated. Meaning, for example, Nike versus Adidas, whatever, they can be differentiated. So let's just look at the market structures here, so we can compare them in the textbook right now. So we have monopoly right there. It's a market with there's only one seller and there are many buyers. For the monopolistic, many buyers, many sellers of goods that can be differentiated. And so you have a nice table that outlines the differences. Monopolistic is a market structure in which there is competition among firms, and so the outline in this market structure, there are many buyers, many sellers. In the monopoly, many buyers, one seller. Just as in the perfect competition, the product is similar yet different through branding, so they can be differentiated. They're not homogeneous products, right? Now, in a monopolistic competition, there is imperfect knowledge, and so that is similar to the monopoly. With the monopoly, both of them have imperfect knowledge. So that's a similarity right there. This means that buyers and sellers do not have all the information of the product it features. And then, a next key thing here, they are price makers. So in the monopoly, they are price makers. In monopolistic competition, they are also price makers. So they are similar in that way. They are also similar that, well, different, because some barriers to entry in this market, some, but the monopoly have higher barriers to entry. See what I say here? There might be some barriers to entry in this market, though they are not difficult to break through. While pure monopoly and pure perfect competition are rare, monopolistic competition is more common in the region. And so you will realize that whereas they say here you have a high cost, that's a major barrier to entry, in monopolistic, there isn't that much of a barrier to leave and exit. So there's a difference right there. So they break them down, similarities, differences, you outline them, and you get your max. So if you look at the table right here, nice and cool, monopoly, monopolistic, number of sellers, 1, number of sellers, many for monopolistic, number of buyers, many for monopoly, many for monopolistic, product, unique, monopoly, product, differentiated in monopolistic, market knowledge, imperfect, both of them have imperfect knowledge, price, both of them are price makers, and then entry conditions, no free entry, there are high barriers to entry, but in the monopolistic, there are low barriers to entry. So those are that's how you compare these things. And you have how many headings? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, you can just choose 4. So and you just give the both sides of the coins. One is this, one is that. Both of them are like this, and you get your full marks for that one. All right, that's 4 marks. Part 2. Cable Me and Cable You are 2 firms that dominate the cable market. Identify this type of market structure and compare it to perfect competition. So we're going to stay right here. So there are 2 sellers. So clearly we know what that is. That's a duopoly, right? There are 2 sellers. So that's a duopoly. Now, so a duopoly is a type of oligopoly. So a duopoly is a type of oligopoly. And so we realize that if you compare it to perfect competition, number of sellers, in this case, 2 or few, right? Whereas in perfect competition, many. Number of buyers, many for all of them. The product tend to be homogeneous, but can be differentiated. In perfect competition, it's homogeneous, while it cannot be differentiated. All of them are the same. Sugar is sugar across the board, milk is milk across the board. As it relates to knowledge, all of them have imperfect market knowledge except for the customers, except for perfect competition, because in perfect competition, everybody's aware of the pricing because the market price is the same throughout. Because all products are the same. So everybody knows how much is a pound of potato, pound of rice, a gallon of milk, etc. For the oligopoly, in this case the duopoly, it's imperfect knowledge. They are price makers with rigidity, but the perfect competition are price takers. They said this with rigidity because it's not just one firm, it's few firms. And sometimes the few firms, they work together, they collude, it might be illegal, but they collude, and to make sure that the market price stays at a certain point. But sometimes some players do their own thing and they undercut or whatever, so you have a little rivalry there. But for the most part, they try to work together, they try to collude to keep the price at a certain level. That's why they say rigidity. Nobody wants to bend or move, or else everybody might suffer. As it relates to entry conditions, you have high barriers to entry in the oligopoly, and then you have freedom of entry and exit in the perfect competition. And for those of you who are confused, let me just show you that the oligopoly is a market structure in which there are few firms, and under the oligopoly, you can find a duopoly. It's an example of oligopoly. There's a duopoly under there, which would be the case for this one. So right here you see on the slide, a duopoly is an oligopoly with only 2 members. It is the simplest type of oligopoly, right? So that's how I've been telling you before. It's a duopoly, it's an oligopoly, but in this case a duopoly, and so the comparisons remain the same. So you knock off those comparisons, you get your 4 marks. All right, last one. Now this is a nice question because this is like an application question. A nice application question right here. So Egbert is one of few specially trained dentists in the Caribbean. Each time Egbert has a new patient, he has to type all the basic information himself, which often results in patients waiting for a long time to receive medical attention. To reduce his patient's wait time, Egbert could choose to hire a secretary, but this will involve a trade-off. Use relevant economic concepts to discuss Egbert's decision. Okay, so right there, 6 marks for this one. So right there, they cue you off as to what we're talking about here. From the time they use the word trade-off, we know what we're talking about. We're talking about opportunity costs. Right, we could tell right from there. Choices. So we are talking about choices, opportunity costs. We're also talking about efficiency. Right? So choices, opportunity costs, efficiency. And if you go back to the start of your textbook, we have a lot of those being discussed early on. You have choices, you have scarcity, choices, opportunity costs. So choices lead to opportunity costs right there. You also have some idea, some semblance of efficiency coming out also. So let's look at that one. So for sure, you are going to define the term opportunity cost, right? And so the opportunity cost is the cost of whatever you gave up to obtain something else, right? So opportunity cost is defined as the next best alternative foregone. So in this case, Edward can choose between hiring a secretary that would save him some time, or keeping that money that he would pay the secretary, but allowing the patients to wait extra time. So that's a trade-off right there. It's either you do all the work and keep the patients waiting, or you pay a secretary, lose that money that would go towards the secretary, but the patients get attended to on in a timely manner. So that's a trade-off right there. Alright, so that's the opportunity cost. So you define opportunity cost and explain that for Egbert, you have a choice between either using that money to pay the secretary, or keeping that money and using his time to fill out all the stuff and also and keep the patients waiting. So that's a choice you have to make between those two. But we have to understand now is that efficiency comes into play right here, because Edward might not be able to attend to as many patients as he would like because he's stuck doing all the paperwork. So he's not as efficient as he can be. He's not his production is not as high as it can be. So we see that coming out right, the efficiency. So we see choices. You have to make a choice between either spending time filling out the stuff or hiring somebody. And if he do hire somebody, he had to give up the monies that he would have collected in someone else's salary. So that's a choice you have right there. Opportunity costs come into play. And of course, the idea of efficiency, where Edward can choose to pay the secretary and increase his efficiency, where he would be able to see more patients or see them in a timely manner, get more work done himself, or be inefficient by having to fill out all the paperwork. So all these concepts coming out right there. So we have choices coming out, we have opportunity costs coming out, we have efficiency, production efficiency coming out, economic efficiency coming out, right? So all those are things that you can discuss in this question. Look at the production possibility curve right there. See economic efficiency. When economy is producing on its production possibility frontier, the economy is said to be efficient. So in this case, we're looking at him as the sole producer, and some idea of efficiency coming out right there. All right, so you can play with those three and get your 6 marks. Define them, explain them in accordance to the case study right there, and you should be able to get your full marks. All right, so that's it for number 1 for the May-June 2019 CSEC Economics Paper 2. That's it for number 1. Now you have to do is, as I said before, like, subscribe, hit the bell to know when Learn SKN drops number 2 for the May-June 2019 CSEC economics paper. Alright, so thanks for watching and thanks for listening, and see you on the next video. Alright, so you can now go and watch the 2018 paper that we have completed. You can watch the 2017 paper we have completed. You can also watch all the paper 1s that we have completed for economics, and if you want to brush up on some of the content, you can also watch some of the economics lectures that we have done on this channel. Alright, good.